The unimaginable 72-hour ordeal leaves Carlesha traumatized.
I was thinking, is this how I'm going to die?
Welcome to WatchMojo, and today we're looking at 10 real-life kidnappings caught on camera.
Obviously, there was somebody that was driving that van, perfectly timed to pick them both up. Now, police are looking for any information you might have if you were in the area.
For this list, we'll be considering the most terrifying abductions that were captured on tape. What's the most shocking CCTV footage you've ever seen? Let us know in the comments. Number 10, Carlesha Freeland-Gaither.
That handshake gave the suspect the opportunity to grab the victim. The decision just a split second earlier might have avoided that escalation.
On November 2nd, 2014, 22-year-old Carlesha Freeland-Gaither was walking down a street in the Philadelphia suburb of Germantown when she was abducted. The shocking ordeal was captured on a surveillance camera and quickly became news when this footage was widely shared on social media.
When Barnes first approaches her, he pretends to ask for directions. But when he shakes her hand, she knows something is wrong.
In the clip, a man, later identified as Delvin Barnes, is seen parking his car on a seemingly quiet street. Seconds later, he approaches Freeland-Gaither before grabbing and dragging her into the vehicle. The young lady puts up quite the fight even after she's forcefully taken and damages Barnes' rear window in the process. Thankfully, Freeland-Gaither was rescued 3 days later, and her captor was handed a 35-year prison sentence.
You see someone being dragged against their will for unknown purposes and probably very dangerous and nefarious purposes.
Number 9, the Singh family.
At 9/11, the back door opens. You'll see the suspect come out and you'll see the firearm. And then it also appears that Jasdeep and Amandeep are zip-tied behind their backs.
Residents of Marquette County in California were gripped by fear in October 2022 after the kidnap of a family from their trucking establishment. Jasdeep Singh, together with his wife Jasleen Kaur, their infant daughter Aruhai Derry, and his brother Amandeep Singh, were all abducted at gunpoint by Jesus Manuel Salgado, a former employee of their company. Security cameras outside the building captured the exact moment Salgado led the entire family out of their business and into a truck in the parking lot, never to be seen again.
The suspect meeting Jasdeep outside carrying a trash bag. He then puts down the bag, appears to show a gun, before entering the building.
The culprit was eventually arrested after using one of the victim's ATM cards and attempting to take his own life. Sadly, the bodies of all 4 family members were found a few days later.
We're not leaving any stone unturned, any blade of grass. Everything we have is out there.
Number 8, Anichka Penev.
It cannot be described with words. She was so happy, and children were so happy to see mother at home.
35-year-old Anichka Penev made headlines in September 2022 following the release of this chilling surveillance video. Penev was driving into her husband's plastics factory in Cape Town, South Africa, when her car was blocked from both ends by 2 white vehicles. The Ukrainian citizen attempts to make a run for it, but she's grabbed by the group of unknown assailants and forced into a getaway car. The brazen incident, which occurred in broad daylight, was captured on CCTV and circulated quickly on social media. The motive behind the abduction seemed to have been ransom, and after about a week of reported negotiations, Penev was reunited with her family.
So I think firstly we're very grateful that she was recovered and that she is safe. I think that's the most important outcome that anybody can hope for.
Number 7, Georgiana Bambeloy. On November 17, 2021, surveillance cameras captured what appeared to be the kidnapping of a young girl outside a gas station in Santa Rosa, California. The girl, Georgiana Bambeloy, is seen standing on a sidewalk when a man in an orange shirt runs up behind her and shoves her into a minivan, which speeds off immediately.
Her family told police that there were several men, but we have still only got one name, one suspect name, and one suspect photo.
Authorities promptly put out an Amber Alert after Bambeloy was reported missing, only for her to return home safely the next morning. Turns out what seemed to have been a case of child abduction was nothing but a poorly planned prank, orchestrated by Bambeloy, her boyfriend, and another friend of theirs.
The girl is now safe at home and says it was all part of a prank. Says she didn't know it was going to happen that way.
Number 6, tween girl from Providence, Rhode Island.
Today we learned more about what police say led them to find the suspect. Police say they combed through hours of video, but it was the 9-year-old girl's statements that helped them piece together a timeline.
The parents of a preteen girl in Providence, Rhode Island, briefly experienced their worst nightmare on October 5th, 2020. That afternoon, their daughter had just gotten off her school bus and was walking home when a man grabbed her off the street and forced her into his car. The incident occurred around the intersection of Grover and Marino Streets in Providence and was recorded in its entirety by a nearby CCTV camera.
Providence police say the 9-year-old was walking home in the Hartford neighborhood of the city and had just stepped off her school bus.
About an hour later, the girl was dropped off in the same area and provided police with clues that eventually led them to the suspect, 34-year-old Luis Martinez Romero. He was later arraigned on charges of kidnapping a minor and second-degree assault.
He may somehow live in the neighborhood, may know the residents. There's no indication of that. This appears to be a stranger crime at this point. He lives in Cranston.
Number 5, Kamille Cupcake McKinney. A public housing project in Birmingham, Alabama was the site of a child abduction that occurred on October 12, 2019.
It leaves us filled with anguish. It inflicts us with suffering and pain.
Kamille McKinney, referred to lovingly by her family as Cupcake, was at a birthday party when she was taken by a man who lured her with sweets. Surveillance footage from outside the building showed McKinney playing with another toddler when they were approached by a man, later identified as Patrick Stallworth.
One male comes up and he sees the little children, and he goes on with them.
The clip was instrumental in identifying Stallworth, who had been arrested on separate charges 2 days after the abduction, but was later linked to the crime. McKinney's body, sadly, was found in a dumpster a few days later, resulting in the conviction of both Stallworth and his girlfriend of her kidnapping.
So the question is, what happens next? Well, Brown and Stallworth will have to navigate through the judicial system. Once they seek representation, that's when we'll be able to ask them the tough questions.
Number 4, Cherish Periwinkle.
Hours of surveillance video show the minute Periwinkle's family first encountered him. Their visit to a Northside Walmart together.
Cherish Periwinkle was shopping together with her mother, Rain, and 2 younger sisters when they made the acquaintance of a man named Donald Smith. Smith had offered to buy clothes for the 3 young girls at a nearby Walmart, which Rain agreed to. While there, Smith proposed buying burgers for the family at the store's McDonald's and took Cherish with him, only to be captured on CCTV exiting the building with the young girl.
Prosecutors say Smith offered to buy them all food at a McDonald's at the front of the store. Instead, they say he walked out with the little girl.
His van was later shown pulling out of the facility. That was the last time Cherish was seen alive, as her body was found the next day in a creek behind a church. Smith was promptly arrested and later convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to death.
A little later, officers arrested Smith, pulling him over on I-95.
Number 3, Carly Bruscia.
Carly is a half mile from her home. A man in a mechanic's uniform walks up to her outside the car wash.
In the dark woods behind a church in Sarasota, Florida, authorities found the body of young Carly Bruscia on February 5, 2004. Bruscia had been reported missing 4 days earlier after failing to return home from her friend's house. In the aftermath of her disappearance, video from the surveillance camera of a car wash was released to the public.
Her walking and him walking, and it just right away, right when I saw it, just drew chills and shivers right in my body.
The footage showed Bruscia walking across a parking lot when she's approached by a man named Joseph Smith, who takes her by the hand and pulls her away. Smith, who was on probation at the time of the shocking incident, was later identified and convicted of first-degree murder. He died behind bars in 2021 while on death row.
You will get yours!
What Joseph Smith will get is now up to the judge.
Number 2, Samantha Koenig.
They say he showed a gun, demanded money, tied her up, and then placed her in the back of his pickup truck.
On February 1, 2012, Samantha Koenig was working as a barista at a coffee shack in Anchorage, Alaska, when a man later identified as Israel Keys approached the stand. From CCTV footage, Keys first places an order before pointing a gun at Koenig. He proceeds to tie her up and take her out of the shop, never to be seen again. Keys, as it turned out, was a serial killer who had claimed the lives of at least 2 other people before he abducted Koenig and killed her the next day. He was eventually arrested the following month after withdrawing money with Koenig's ATM card. Before he could even be tried for the crime, Keys took his own life in his jail cell.
Back when I was smart, I would do it. I would let them come to me.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1, James Bulger.
In the short time it took to make a purchase and look for change in her purse, her son had disappeared.
The story of the abduction and murder of James Bulger is sure to leave anyone sick to their stomach. Bulger was with his mother at a shopping center in Bootle, England, when he was taken by Robert Thompson and John Venables, 2 preteen boys. Security cameras captured the toddler holding Venables' hand and being let out of the mall.
That's Venables holding his hand?
Yeah.
And then they're outside the shopping centre in probably just under 2 minutes. It was that quick.
The boys had reportedly taken Bulger on a long walk to Walton, Liverpool, where he was brutally tortured and left for dead. Stills from the surveillance footage were widely broadcast, leading one woman who recognized the boys to reach out to police. Thompson and Venables became two of the youngest convicted murderers in British history when they were found guilty of Bulger's death.
This case has always been one side. It's always been, what about Venables, what about Thompson, what about me, and what about my family, what about my kids?
Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.